Greetings, junior scientists, and citizens of this great big weird, wild, and wonderful world in which we live. As always, I'm your humble science communicator, the Great Orbax, coming to you here from the Department of Physics at the University of Guelph with the March 2022 Stargazing Guide. This month, we finally make it to the first day of spring. We'll talk about the vernal equinox and also a NASA mission which could result with Canadian astronauts living on the moon. But first, let's take some time to look up. As spring approaches, we have some new constellations becoming prominent in the night sky. Ursa Major, which we discussed in February, remains visible, as does Bootes, which we discussed in January. Joining us in March are clear views of Leo, Cancer, Virgo, and Hydra. In modern astronomy, we recognize 88 constellations, of which Hydra is the largest, followed by Virgo and then Ursa Major. Hydra, the twisted serpent, creeps its way into the night sky, rising in the southeast around sunset. Planets in the solar system are most visible in the mornings this month, with Mars and Venus being your best bets in the southeast sky around 6 a.m. As a matter of fact, our friend Saturn returns in March, and if you're lucky, later in the month you should be able to see all three of them close together within the same field of view. They might be so close together that you should use binoculars to discern the different planets. Over the last week of March, Saturn moves steadily closer towards Mars, but more on that next month. The full moon this month is the last full moon of winter and takes place on March 18th. It's known as the worm moon. The Mi'kmaq call the March full moon the maple sugar moon, while the Ojibwe people of the Great Lakes region also know it as the hard crust on the snow moon. The Cree refer to it as the eagle moon because the end of winter also marks the return of the eagle to our northern skies. This month we'll see the first day of spring, and here's why. We all remember that the Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees with respect to the line perpendicular to the plane of our orbit around the sun. One Earth year corresponds to one full solar orbit. In December, we talked about the winter solstice, the one day each year that the North Pole is tilted its furthest distance away from the sun, resulting in the fewest daylight hours for us here in North America. Conversely, the summer solstice is the one day each year when the North Pole is tipped closest towards the sun, resulting in the most daylight hours that we experience. On Sunday, March 20th, is the vernal equinox. On this day, halfway between the winter and the summer solstice, we experience equal amounts of daylight and nighttime hours. And in North America, this denotes the first day of spring. This phenomenon occurs again in 6 months when we've traveled 180 degrees through our orbit around the sun. We call this the autumnal equinox, which this year occurs on September 22nd, denoting the first day of autumn.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
At 0256 Greenwich Mean Time on July 21st, 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first human being to ever step foot on the moon. Since then, a total of 12 people have walked on the moon, but the last time an astronaut boot touched lunar soil was 1972. Now, 50 years later, NASA is sending astronauts back as part of the Artemis program. Scheduled to launch in a few short weeks is the first phase of the Artemis program. NASA's new space launch system Mega Rocket will deploy the uncrewed Orion spacecraft and venture thousands of kilometers beyond the moon on a 3-week mission. Orion will stay in space longer than any spacecraft capable of carrying astronauts ever has. In the second phase of the Artemis project, planned for 2024, a Canadian astronaut will join others aboard the Orion spacecraft as they set a record for the farthest human travel beyond the far side of the moon. Finally, in the third phase, the first woman and the first person of color in history will walk on the moon. The Artemis program will not only bring us these first, but it'll also lay the groundwork for an orbiting science station known as the Gateway that will act as a staging point for human and robotic lunar missions. The ultimate goal is to build an Artemis base camp on the surface of the moon where astronauts can live and work for up to 2 months at a time. While studying and exploring the surface of the moon is an achievement in its own right, scientists hope that by establishing a successful lunar colony, we'll be able to learn everything we need to know about building a successful Martian colony. Wow. When I was a junior scientist, these ideas were things that I used to read about in comic books and in science fiction novels. And now, only a few decades later, they become a reality, thanks to the hard work, creativity, and imagination of scientists around the world. To celebrate the Artemis program, the Canadian Space Agency is planning events across the country in the coming months, including some moon observing nights. For more information, ask the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada Centre nearest you. Thanks for listening, junior scientists, and don't forget to have a science-tastic day. Special thanks to Royal City Science's own planetary geochemist, Dr. Glynis Perrett, for her help preparing our stargazing guide. We'd also like to thank the Skyview app and the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada